Thanks for joining, and welcome to the leveling guide for our new CoI build. Many of the choices we take are the same as in the last leveling guide, so I will only briefly mention them for continuity in this video. So long as your skeletons run over the bridge to tank him, they will keep aggro. This may be much more difficult with a controller. As you can see, I can aim with my mouse pointer easily. After this disaster of a tutorial, we head to town. The first thing we should do is create the Flame Wall gem, and equip it in our gem page. Don't forget to assign the skill to a button. Interestingly, I found that using the skeleton minions after the tutorial area is actually detrimental to our clear speed, so let's get rid of them for now. To start, our playstyle simply involves running away, while leaving a wall of fire in our wake. This is the fastest way to kill lots of enemies at the start of the game, for any class. So all we do is run close enough to the monsters that they notice us and follow, and group up as many as we can. This will be a recurring theme for this build. Once we have our monsters, we cast a contagion in the pack, and let the dots do their work. If we can control the flow, we are able to drag monsters from the previous pack into new monsters and spread the contagion to them, with bonus damage, and without having to cast it again. We're also using one of the stock weapons to take advantage of Firebolt. Any of the low-level wands or staves will work. Just take whichever you find and don't spend your gold on one. Whichever one you happen upon, using the Unleash support on a stock weapon does not increase the mana cost by 50%, because it has no mana cost to begin with. Also, find items with armor on them. Do not focus on using evasion or energy shield items during the campaign, or you will take a lot of damage from physical. Once defeated, create an Essence Drain gem and equip it straight away. As we level, it is important we meet the stat requirements for our gems and items. It may be good practice to keep a skill point or two, so you can increase your stats, just in case you find an item or higher level skill gem. That's all the same until we get to the count. Now we will make use of the new, level 5, skill gems available to us. And upgrade our items if possible, especially focusing on cold resistance. Bonestorm is a strong early game channeling spell, and Solar Orb will apply a powerful ignite. With our Contagion and Essence Drain, we can easily cheese through bosses if we don't want to fight with Bonestorm. Once we are ready, I recommend level 22 for a level 7 gem. We will complete the Trial of Sekhema and choose Demon Form for our first Ascendancy. Don't forget to spend your keys, look at your items and see which needs improving the most, then select the cash you need, don't randomly select them. We can also convert the rest of our water for extra keys, to get bonus rewards. Using these skills in a boss fight requires us to cast them in a rotation, which means we cast multiple skills, in sequence. We can notice under the boss health bar that our debuff icons show which effects are active. When they disappear, we need to recast our Solar Orb or Essence Drain to keep the damage ticking. When we're not refreshing our dots, we can channel Bonestorm for extra damage. We are able to sustain Demon Form in the campaign, because we take the skill nodes which grant life on kill, near the monk starting area. This means we can save our flask charges for when we need to respond to damage taken, and makes leveling a lot smoother. We also swap to Fireball with Unleash and Frost Wall with Spell Cascade as soon as we unlock level 9 skill gems. These skills will basically stay the same. We will only add more spells into our cast on Ignite after transitioning to Infernal Flame. Another tip I'd like to share, which will work on all bosses, is to think of them as either melee or ranged. Each boss has a preference and will be much stronger with one of those. The mighty Silver Fist is actually very weak in melee range, but can one-shot us if we let him stay at long range. In some boss arenas, there are also obstacles. The monster AI seems to be really bad at sticking to their choices, and we can easily change their mind by moving slightly further away. If there are no obstacles, try to stay on top of them like this, and use the dodge roll to dash behind them as they use an ability. This is even faster when using Demon Form. Remember to disenchant the rare items you find for Regal Shards, and salvage any items you find with either quality or sockets, as the item drops are balanced around us having access to this mechanic. It is important we take advantage of it to retain a healthy supply of orbs. If we don't, it will become difficult to craft our own upgrades, and we become reliant on gambling from the vendor, or hoping we get the item to drop randomly. By the time we got to Act 3 Cruel and fought the Bog Witch, we were 5 levels under the zone. This is the maximum we are allowed to be either above or below, while still earning 100% experience. The monster level, which is based on the zone, will grant us full XP if we are within a 5 level difference. Otherwise we get reduced XP as a penalty for not being the correct level. Herding the monsters remains an important aspect of our playstyle, all throughout the game. This is because the energy generated for a white monster is very low, when compared to rare monsters or bosses. So, herding is important, because if we fight 20 white monsters at once, this would grant us equivalent energy compared to a boss. This means it is important for us to group up as many as we can handle, instead of fighting them a single pack at a time. We are also using multiple cast on ignites, but this is not the final form of this build yet. Only transition to Infernal Flame if you have all the items and jewels for the build. First up is the helmet, for the price of 1 Exalted Orb. Then in the next trade, we have our boots. These items are prioritizing life regeneration, mana, and resistances. The life is not necessary and can actually cause us to take increased damage from our Infernal Flame. Up next we have the belt. Because this character was my first completing the campaign in the League, we did not trade until reaching the endgame. The items I am trading for now will be the setup we use in the rest of the video. This belt was bought for 1 Exalted Orb. Also remember how much you see me paying for these items. I'm not breaking the bank, and we will have a fully functional build, with basically no investment at all, only what we found playing through the acts. Here we have the gloves, for 2 Exalted Orbs, although there were plenty of similar options for 1 or 2 Exalteds. These gloves have no energy shield, at least the resistances are high and we get some rarity to farm those Exalteds back. We desperately need Spirit on our armor, and on our Amulet too. We really need the Spirit to use our cast on Ignite. Other stats like Resistance or Life Regen will help. Luckily, we can craft the most expensive item ourselves with a pretty good success rate. Just be sure to pick up all the ultimate life masks you find in any zone. Bingo! Obviously we still check the others, but we know we have what we want, simply through Transmute Orbs. And with all that, we are fully equipped. I don't know about yourself, but this leveling was riddled with rubber banding and disconnections for me. I had to redo so many zones, and most of the time I lost the instance when I reconnected. Weirdly, this time it's like they paused the game, waiting for me to log back in. I will show the stats, gems, items, and skill tree after this fight, on a level 73, fresh off the bus out of the campaign. Notice we have 3 skills. We always want to be in demon form for the bonus gem levels and spell damage, but the curse we want active as often as possible. Even though we deal damage with Comet, which is cold, we want the fire curse so that our solar orb can deal more damage, which generates more energy to cast comets faster. Our fire resistance is at 83%, which is very important to have, so as to not fall over when casting. Our flask stats are important as well, with the belt being our biggest source of obtaining the reduced charges used modifier, as well as the flask life recovery rate. Second wind has changed. We still get 2 charges, but the cooldown will not decrease while we are transformed, so we must portal to town to reset the cooldown. Our cast on Ignite contains both Contagion and Essence Drain, for improved map clearing, and an additional removal of Ignite. Our other cast on Ignites contain our Comets, which will be our main source of DPS against bosses, through casting Solar Orb. Overabundance is the key to make this work. Without it our energy gain is severely reduced. Our skill tree should look very familiar to some of you. We take the obvious life recoup nodes, as well as energy gain, and flask-related stats, But one of the biggest changes to this tree may not seem like it works at first, but it definitely does. It is the inclusion of reduced mana cost of skills. This will reduce the damage we take by filling our Infernal Flame less. The jewels used in this build, of which there are 3, are all ruby jewels, with 1% maximum fire resistance, which were also a single exalted each, except for one of them which was 3 exalteds. We must also anoint our amulet with the heavy drinker skill, which will allow our flasks to last longer, and by only adding Alchemist's Boon to this setup, we will be flask sustainable with this skill tree. Be sure to purchase the correct distillations. 3 Envy is what we want for this version of the build. We would also need to have 2 of the Black Flame Ring, because we are relying on Solar Orb to generate energy, with Ignite. Increasing the magnitude of that Ignite allows us to generate more energy, and this is a very cheap option. The reduced Ignite duration does not affect us, because Solar Orb does not apply Ignite for a duration. The enemy is either next to the Solar Orb and is ignited, or they are not. Solar Orb does not take duration into consideration for our purposes. We also need to mention that the soul cores in our armor are from the currency exchange, and today we are trading at 3 for 13 exalted. As well as increasing our maximum fire resistance, we do also need to make sure we have excess fire resistance, to make use of the extra maximum resistance we get from using these. Overabundance may not make sense to use, as it does not give us more damage directly. Let me show you the difference, and then explain why this is the case. Once the old comets stop falling, we can see the cast rate has dramatically fallen without the Overabundance support. When we place it back in, the cast rate speeds back up. This is because when we are allowed 2 orbs, and the oldest gets refreshed when we cast a new one, as it disappears the second orb will also apply an Ignite, effectively doubling our energy gain. The Drain Ailment support with either Contagion or Essence Drain is also mandatory to increase our energy further, by removing an Ignite which is instantly reapplied by the orb, and grants energy for cast on Ignite. When fighting monsters, it may be difficult to herd them when we are in closed corridors. If you find yourself in one of these maps, do your best to slip past the side and group them that way. The Essence Drain and Contagion, in our cast on Ignite, will also help clear the white mobs, if we do not generate enough energy to use comets alone. Demon form has many benefits, but we can clearly see here the speed increase is one of the best out of any Ascendancy. If you choose to play this build, I would recommend looking to gather the items first before making any skill tree changes, but following the budget guide will be great while keeping costs low. As we upgrade our character, the Overwhelming Presence aura stands out as a big damage multiplier for us. Because we rely on Ignites to generate energy, by lowering the threshold at which an Ignite can be applied, allows us to generate more energy with the same amount of damage. Alchemist's Boon is also used to keep our flasks active indefinitely. Also, the Herbalism support gives us the equivalent of 3 skill points worth of flask life recovery, so if we have the extra spirit, this is worth having. It is no longer bugged and gives us just 30%. We may use any skill combinations we like, as they will all activate from our cast on Ignite. If you find Comet is difficult to farm maps with, or kiting and herding the mobs is getting you killed, this will help. By placing Essence Drain and Contagion in separate cast on Ignites, we activate them twice as frequently. Combined with Firestorm, which is half the cost of Comet, helps finish off enemies and allowing the Contagion to spread Essence Drain. Moving quickly through the map and dragging enemies along with us is still a major factor in the playstyle of any cast on Ignite build, using Solar Orb. Because we do not generate full energy from normal enemies, by not grouping them, we are only increasing the time it takes to complete a map. This is the case for many builds, not just ours, and is a good habit to adopt for any character you play. We can also see how tanky we are, due to the 2,500 healing per second we have from our flask. With this leveling setup, as we upgrade, this value can go over 4,000, even without hard to kill, which is another 40%. The next best upgrade for our demon form is the Gnashing Sash. As mentioned in the previous video, This belt will be good for sustaining our demon form, and with full investment into flask generation we can keep it active forever, while doubling our HP and getting hundreds of demon form stacks. As mentioned earlier, any spells you like can be used, so experiment, and maybe you'll stumble across something. The advantage of low energy cost spells is that they will activate much more against normal monsters, making maps easier. Although bosses will be much more difficult, so if you are low geared, I would keep Comet with its supports in your bag, ready to swap for the boss fight. Before we finish, I would like to show you how to increase your cast rate, which will be very useful if you try to experiment with, or push a variation of this build. Simply drain more ailments, so that we may inflict more ignites, and generate energy faster. The Soulless Helmet is necessary for this, unless you are playing as a gemling, in which case now you can equip 3 copies of support gems. If you want to go bananas, then simply continue adding contagions or essence drains to your cast on Ignite. Each spell will generate an additional ignite and grant us more energy. When we start setting up our skills like this, we can actually generate enough energy to loop on its own, if you can sustain the resource cost. After trying to set up the build, if you are still taking too much damage and falling over, be sure to use the Inspiration Support Gem in the Comet, which is Spell Echo, to reduce the resource cost and decrease our damage taken from Infernal Flame. I will keep you guys updated with my progress throughout the league. I had a late start so I'm behind, but we will be keeping an eye out for the Soulless Helmet and Sacrosanctum Armor, which we will use in our higher investment options, alongside Gnashing Sash. Ming's Heart, combined with our updated Ascendancy skill, is very strong, because Gainer's Extra will be applied to our magnitude multiplicatively. It is more damage than Black Flame. Well, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the guide, or found something useful to explore for yourself. Thanks for watching, and take care, until next time.